Um, Thank you for coming. My name is Andy Back. I'm the Planning and Development Services Manager for Washington County. So welcome to the Walnut Street building. Most of you probably interact with us over at the PSB in downtown Hillsborough. We thought it would be good to meet over here for a change for a couple reasons. One, the Department of Land Use and Transportation, about 2/3 of the employees are actually housed over here. So this will give you a better sense of the totality of the department. And another reason is, for those of you who've been to the PSB recently, it's pretty torn up. So even if we didn't want to come here, we couldn't do the move there. We do these twice a year, have for the past 4 years or so. I think that's probably a good frequency, but we'd like to hear from you and any feedback at the end of the program, just whether you think that that's a good timing. I don't think we'll probably do them more often, but we were kind of toying with the notion of just doing them annually. So hearing from you in terms of the frequency of these would be a good thing. So let me talk a little bit about a couple of people who aren't here. One is Andrew Singalakis. He's our director. He sends his regrets for not being here. He's fighting with TriMet over more transit service today. And we have a new assistant director. His name is Stephen Roberts. He's not here today also, but many of you know him. Let's go over the purpose here. So you can read pretty well probably if you're in here, but the first thing is for staff to share information about development related services and initiatives. So it's really for us trying to give you what we think is pertinent information for your work. We also want it to be a dialogue and get information back from you. So hearing and learning from our customers is really important. And the last thing is building the productive relationships that, you know, I just shook hands with Tony, and I think I've known him for about 25 years, but there's a lot of faces around here that I've never seen before. So we know it's really important to establish those relationships, especially when we're at the counter over the PSB arguing over conditions over a particular development. It's nice to actually know what your name is. So those things are really important, and the really focus point of today is after we do the presentations and mingling afterwards, so we hope you can stay and eat the food, because if you don't eat the food, the next time we order less food. So let me talk a little bit more about some of the staff updates. Things, we're getting close to being fully staffed. We're not entirely there. One important hire that we did make, that I'll mention, that there are a lot of important hires, but we finally have a grading inspector. So for a long time, we didn't have a grading inspector, so staff would go out and it would be a weekly thing, and it would cause all sorts of problems for scheduling. But now we have a full-time dedicated grading inspector. His name is Jeff Thompson. I might mention a couple other staff things. One is Hank McDonald is our building official, and he is not going to be our building official after about 5 weeks. So Hank is retiring, so we're currently in the process of recruiting a new building official. So feel free to hug Hank if you want. I already mentioned Stephen Roberts becoming the new assistant director. Officially, he was kind of in our role on an interim basis for quite a bit. And it's Todd here. Todd Watkins is the new operations manager, so for all the road operations. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the permits that you need to get over in this building, but congratulations, Todd.
Condolences.
Coming from a man who... Let's talk a little bit about activity. Things have sort of leveled off over the last year, maybe down slightly by that, maybe 5%, but what that means is, I think last month we did about 6,000 inspections, so multiply that by 1.05, and that's what we did for the same month last year. So it's still really active, but I think it's peaked and leveled off. We're still struggling a little bit, especially in the plan review section, in terms of having enough people to do the work. We lost a building engineer. We didn't lose him, we know where he is, but he chose to move on. And we've struggled, frankly, finding people in plan review and with the building engineering expertise. So we're still a little bit behind on the plan review side, just from lack of staff, not lack of effort. I'm going to now jump into reading something called The Nature of Our Work. I read this every time. Some people want me to edit it like crazy, but I still read it and haven't gotten fired yet. So, the nature of our work is to be your partner, to get you through the process and meet regulations. It's important to note that we are regulators. We are here because development code and building codes are on the book and is law. It's a partnership with you, but also with our citizens who expect us to implement these regulations. It's not a productive debate whether or not they should be on the books, nor do we debate neighbors who want more regulations. Our job is to be your partner, get you through the regulations. I know the term regulator may have a bad connotation for some of you, but to me, it means we are your partner to get you through the process to meet regulations. Not exceed the regulations, nor waive the regulations. It's important to emphasize the partnership, but it's also important to recognize the fundamental truth that we wouldn't be here if these regulations weren't on the books. And so with those provocative comments, let me go over the agenda. Tom Harry, he's going to talk about neighborhood meetings. Derek is going to give you an update on Project Docs, the electronic plan review. Diami is going to talk about our new parking regulations. He was here last time, but now they're actually adopted. And Aaron Clodfelter is going to talk about work in the county right away. Couple of things. We do have a pretty tight agenda, so we're going to try to keep it limited to 2 questions per section, if possible, and there'll be plenty of opportunity at the end to talk one-on-one, and we think, frankly, that's the best way to have your questions answered anyway. But with that, I'll just jump into it, and it'll be the Tom Harry Show. So enjoy.